In this video, we're going to look at multiplying x plus 5i by x minus 5i. Now this particular problem has a special name. Really what we're doing is we're multiplying complex conjugates. It's a conjugate because we have an x and a 5i in each of the things we're multiplying, and the only thing that's different is the sign in between, a plus and a minus. So that's what makes something a conjugate. The reason that it's complex is because it contains an I. I is the complex unit, and so if you have something with an I, it's automatically complex, in this case, a complex conjugate. And so I'm just rewrote the problem down about midways through the page, and we're just going to FOIL. We're going to pretend like it's just a normal problem that we would FOIL out. We'll worry about the I's later. So when we multiply our first terms, the x by the x is going to give us x squared. When we multiply the outer terms, the x by the negative 5x gives us minus 5xi. When we do the inner terms, the x by the 5i, we're going to get plus 5xi. And then the last terms, the 5i times negative 5i is going to give us minus 25. And for now, we'll just write I squared. So the first thing to notice, and this happens anytime you have a conjugate, the middle terms are going to cancel each other out after you FOIL. So in other words, the negative 5i x is going to cancel out the positive 5i x. And so all we have left over then is x squared minus 25i squared. And so here's where the next important step comes into play. I is the same thing as the square root of negative 1. So therefore I squared is the same thing as the square root of negative 1 squared, which is negative 1. So anytime you're doing a problem like this or dealing with complex units in general, if you multiply and end up with an I squared, you can change out that I squared for a negative 1. So we're going to rewrite this problem as x squared minus 25 times, and in the place of I squared, we're going to put negative 1. So you definitely want to keep that in mind when you're doing a problem like this. But still, it's not too bad to look out for it. Simplifying, we'll have x squared. Negative 25 times negative 1 is going to be positive 25. And now all of the complex units are gone, and we're just left with some nice real number solution. And so in general, anytime you're multiplying complex conjugates, you can kind of see the pattern. If you multiply the x's together and get x squared, and you multiply the 5's together, it's always going to be the positive version of 25 that you end up with. So let's say you just changed out the 5i with 7i in both cases. Then you could automatically say, oh, well, the answer is going to be x squared plus 49. And it will always work as long as you're multiplying out complex conjugates like this.